This is example number 4. We have 3 over m minus 1 plus m over m plus 1. Remember, we can't add these together until we get the same denominator on both fractions. And if we remember to our previous examples, the best way to get the same denominator on both fractions is just to multiply the denominators together. So we're going to have two separate fractions with the same denominator. So m minus 1 multiplied by m plus 1. Remembering to put them in brackets. So how did we actually achieve this? Well, what we did was we multiplied this denominator by the opposite denominator. So we've multiplied by m plus 1. Put this in brackets. Remember, if we multiply the denominator, we must multiply the numerator by the same amount. This denominator was multiplied by the opposite denominator again, this time m minus 1. So multiply the top by m minus 1. We'll put this in brackets to remind us that it's everything being multiplied. Okay, so we got m minus 1 multiplied by m plus 1 and m plus 1 multiplied by m minus 1. Okay, so remember, it doesn't matter that the plus sign and the minus sign, the plus sign was first and then the minus sign on the bottom here. Okay, it doesn't matter which order you multiply them in. For example, 4 times 3 is just the same as 3 times 4. So we've done this so that both denominators look exactly the same. On the numerator, 3 times m plus 1 and on the second fraction, m times m minus 1. Now we have two fractions with the same denominator, so we can write that as a single fraction. So we have m minus 1 times m plus 1 on the bottom. 3m plus 1 was the first thing, and we are adding m times m minus 1. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is multiply the brackets out in the top line to see if we can simplify. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll put down the denominator again. So we have 3 times m gives us 3m, and 3 times 1, which gives us 3. M times m, which gives us m squared, and m times minus 1, which gives us minus m. So that does give us something we can simplify. We have some things that can be simplified here, some like terms. The 3m minus m gives us 2m. So what we have on our numerator is m squared plus 2m plus 3. Our denominator stays the same. Can we simplify this fraction? Well, at present, there is nothing that can cancel, but remembering what we said previously, if we can factorise on the top, then we should do that, because what we might get is something that we can then cancel with something else on the bottom. So can we factorise this? The answer is yes. It's a trinomial expression, so we'll give it a go. So we'll need some working at the side for this, but to start with, we'll circle the first term and the end term. Now we have space for working over at the side, but what we'll do first is we'll put down what we can of the next line to begin with. Now the denominator isn't changing. All we're doing is we're going to factorise the expression on top, the trinomial expression. When you factorise a trinomial, it factorises into two brackets. So we'll put the two brackets on the top line, ready. Now, hopefully what we're going to get is we're going to get something in one of these brackets which is the same as one of the brackets on the bottom. If we get that, we can then cancel. So we'll see what happens. So over to our working. We know that the top line is going to factorise into two brackets, so we'll put these down at the side in the usual formation. So what we're trying to do is, first of all, get two things that multiply to give us m squared, and two things that will multiply to give us 3. So the only way to get the m squared is having an m at the front of both brackets. Now we're hoping to get two things that multiply to give you 3, but also these two things, when we put them into our arrangement up here, has to add to give us 2m. So two numbers that multiply to give you 3, well, 1 and 3. Using the cross technique we had before, m times 3 gives us 3m, and m times 1 gives us m. Can we combine these to give us plus 2m? We can, if we put a negative sign in front of this m. So remember, we got this m by doing m times 1. To make it minus m, it has to be minus 1. This 3m doesn't have a sign, which means it's plus, so that means m times plus 3. So now we have our two brackets, m minus 1 and m plus 3, so we'll fill that in. M minus 1 and m plus 3. What we were hoping for is something that could cancel, so we have m minus 1 on the top and on the bottom, which can cancel out. We'll continue this working up here, so we have m plus 3 left on the top line and m plus 1 on the bottom. Can this be simplified further? No, this is our final answer.